since the end of Game of Thrones, and we still do not have the winds of winter. I wanted to do a vid on a twist I was hoping to see in season 8 that didn't quite pan out. And shout out to Quinn from Quinn's Ideas. This channel is definitely a homage to you and your love of Dune and your love of Song of Ice and Fire. And thanks for the inspiration and keep up the amazing work. I can't wait to read Talia. First, I'll just say I love the Ice and Fire books. Didn't read them until after the show came out, but then I read all of them through before I started to watch the show. I've only read the main continuity novels. I haven't read like the Dunk and Egg or Fire and Ice, etc. And also, I'm not a purist. I understand that the TV show and the books are different media in which different approaches to storytelling work. And I didn't hate the ending of season 8. Though overall, I was less than impressed with seasons 7 and 8 altogether. I enjoyed the series most for the storytelling and like the moments of pathos and the acting. My favorite episode of season 8, for example, was A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And probably my least favorite episode of the series was Hard Home. And I didn't much like episodes like Battle of the Bastards or The Long Night. When it comes to like choreographed fighting or battle scenes, I'm more about like Vikings, like it's kind of like realism and small scale stuff and not as much CGI. Or Daredevil, for instance, on Netflix, has like amazing fight scenes that are choreographed, like, obviously the famous scene in the hallway. So I'm not like against violence on TV, but the HBO flavor with all the CGI, it's not really necessarily what I enjoyed about the show in particular. So anyway, after The Long Night, I was a bit disappointed by how they did away with the so-called Night King, the king of the White Walkers. And here I'll acknowledge that the Night King is a completely different character in the book. You guys probably know that. In the books, the Night King is definitely a Stark, right? He's a historical Night King. However, so I'll play around with that idea a little bit, that the Night King of the show could be seen as a Stark. Like, we don't really know. Also, this vid is in some ways a companion video to my The Magic Universe of Dune Part 2 video. So if you've read Dune as well, go watch that one after this. It has spoilers for Dune books 1 through 3, however, so be aware of that. And also how you feel about like a big bad's fake death as a plot device will probably determine how amenable you are to this idea. So if you want some context for this video, I'd recommend going back, watch the episode The Long Night from Game of Thrones on your home box office, and then probably go read, if you have a copy of it, the prologue for A Dance with Dragons, which is book 5 of A Song of Ice and Fire. So my one question after watching The Long Night is, shouldn't the King of the White Walkers be more powerful than ever because it's winter? Winter has just come. Or is he weakened perhaps by animating so many wights or thralls, if you will, during this battle? Is his mana drained, so to speak? Because if you remember, there's that moment in The Long Night where like everyone who's died so far, all the humans who have died so far, are like raised back up in this one moment. It's dramatic. I don't know how much sense it makes. Like are the thralls always raised precisely by a White Walker? Like, because it seems that they just become reanimated like the closer they are to the north above the wall. I don't know. And aren't some of the thralls animated maybe by the magic of his White Walker companions then, not specifically by the King of the White Walkers himself? In any event, it seems unlikely that Arya would be able to jump out of nowhere and kill him, but she does. And in this sense, it's cool because it calls to mind maybe like the Lord of the Rings, the scene in the Lord of the Rings when the Lord of the Nazgul dies at the hands of Eowyn, which is a scene I always had an issue with in the Lord of the Rings movies, because instead of having a duel in which she bests him, it's sort of depicted as a stroke of luck and timing that she's able to kill him. And I think it sort of undermines the effectiveness of her characterization and sort of cheapens it, which like what could have been a really cool moment, when she says like, "I'm no man," like. But I mean, I still love those movies. I just think it could have gone a different direction with it as far as that scene. But anyway, not talking about LOTR. For HBO, the leader of the White Walkers must have a lot of power, and it is this power he has is associated with the Children of the Forest, with the Weirwoods, with the Green Seers, with the Starks, with the Old Gods, right? It's all probably coming from like a similar source, at least. Which seems to be separate from like LotR or the Seven or the Many-Faced Gods. Like it seems to be a different sort of realm of magic. Like a different sort of warren, as they talk about in the Malazan books. If he can animate the thralls, if the leader of the White Walkers can animate the thralls, can he not also warg? Definitely, right? Presumably. He's depicted as Bran's like evil counterpart, and Bran is powerful enough to warg other humans, as seen in the Hodor episode, the Hold the Door episode, which was, like a big moment in the series as far as like a holy shit kind of moment, like a, them pulling the rug out kind of from underneath, saying what are the rules to this universe, time travel, like, that kind of thing. But there's really not a lot of follow-up there. Like that's such a dramatic thing, and then it's never really like revisited at all, which is, just sort of a shame. But that's kind of the case with a lot of things. And they wanted to wrap up the main sequences, main plots of the show. Like, it's understandable. There's one chapter of the books, which is all about the abomination of warging into another person, though. This idea that was shown briefly in the Hold the Door episode. And that one chapter is the prologue to A Dance with Dragons. In this chapter, Varamir Sixskins dies and tries to warg into the Spearwife Thistle as a last resort. He tries to commit what's called in the chapter the blackest sin of all. Varamir could take any beast he wanted, bend them to his will, make their flesh his own, dog or wolf, bear or badger. Thistle, he thought. So this depiction of warging seems to have a connection to the human zombie whites thralls in particular, because Varamir is controlling more than one creature at a time. So he's known as Sixskins because he kept 3 wolves and a shadow cat in thrall. He tries to take Thistle to live another life in her body, but she dies and later is seen waking as a white or zombie. The second life is simpler and sweeter, they say. Varamir recalls his guardian Hagen saying. Hagen trained him to be a warg, and he says that his powers were greater than Hagen's, though he surpassed him. So theoretically, if you warg another body, as you die, your spirit stays in the mortal plane, but your warging abilities do not carry over. Varamir thinks his gift would perish with his body. And he also thinks, regarding Ghost, man should have let me take the direwolf. There would be a second life worthy of a king. So kings, direwolves, and second lives. Don't you think that if the leader of the White Walkers is at least as powerful as Varamir Sixskins, that he would have tried during his death to warg and possess Arya? I was partly suspecting a chilling, twist ending as the camera closed on Arya as she rides across the Western Ocean. See her eyes suddenly glow like frozen blue. It just could have been like a cool, sort of sinister, maybe sort of cynical moment at the end, but that would have been sort of in line with the themes of the show, right? And again, I said I liked the ending with Bran becoming king and stuff, and it was like fairly neat. But every main character didn't have to meet like a good end at the end. Not that they all did, of course. Daenerys. Really, any time before that, between the long night, anytime before that ending where Arya is sailing away, between the long night and the last episode, which is called the Iron Throne, it would have been cool to have Arya turn out to be possessed by the leader of the White Walkers. Like, maybe she would have tried to kill Bran and be killed by Jon or something. The possibilities were there. Also, Arya is theoretically capable of warging, at least into Nymeria. So wouldn't she be an especially appealing body for a second life to the Night King, the king of the White Walkers. I'm saying Arya would have been the most likely candidate for possession by the head White Walker in charge. The connection to Dune comes because the girl Arya, who kills the Baron Harkonnen, the big bad from the first Dune book, is eventually possessed by his spirit in the other books. Nevertheless, if the HBO Night King is as powerful as we understand he is, then Bran and Jon certainly seem like nearby targets he could have possibly warged as well in the moments before his demise, especially if Bran is like in the birds above him, warging those, which like is an idea that some people have. Could he have done that and then been the one to kill Daenerys, like in Jon's body, as a last defense for ice against fire, maybe? A victory in the battle between LotR and the other, or perhaps being a Targ himself. This possibility could be suggested by the scene where he couldn't be destroyed by dragonfire. He wanted to either eliminate a rival for the throne or destroy a remnant of the crazy gene in the Targaryens. Lastly, if he had warged Bran, perhaps the ultimate prize, then he did win because he gained the throne for himself and for the North. He would have to contend with the Meisters of Old Town and with the Ironborn, perhaps, or what's left of them, but he'd be in a prime position to overtake all of Westeros. And this would fit in some ways with all the "is Bran the Night King" sort of like somewhat tinfoil videos out there. But in Arya's skin, he could escape the land of always winter and do what? Take over another continent? As with the demon in a box that the android ends up being at the end of the movie Ex Machina, we don't even really know the motivations of the Night King or ever get like a serious hint at them, unfortunately. We just know that he wanted to escape the North, and raising the army to lure the dragon to destroy the wall seems to have done the trick. If that was his goal, he accomplished that, but what else was he looking to do? For the most part, until he was given the gift by the Faceless Woman, he at least achieved that one goal until he gets to, Winterfell. Finally, however, had this shaken out, it would have been a fun twist because big bads are never as fun as when they are a one-time protagonist, possessed or corrupted, in my opinion. Professor Xavier becoming Onslaught in the X-Men comic books, for example, like 20 years ago. Arya has killed before. She is a servant of death. Her status as Abomination would not be totally unearned in like a karmic sort of system. And winter has just started on Westeros, and winters can be as long, they can be dozens of years on Planetos. Winters can last, we don't really know why. That's never really explained at all in the show. But like the longer winter goes on, the more his powers should grow, right? They should have just been peaking now. And presumably, whatever land Arya finds across the ocean, winter is probably continuing there, right? Unless she crosses a hemisphere, which is possible for sure. But, we don't know that she necessarily will. She sort of becomes like a St. Brendan type figure. She's going over there, which means she's probably not going to hit like the Caribbean of sorts of this world. She's probably going to hit more like whatever the equivalent of New England would be, right? Or Virginia or something. If there's a North American type or America's type continents on the other side of whatever ocean is west of Westeros. I don't know. So perhaps it would be long enough to quell the dream of spring across the whole world if he manages to take over whatever, if there's people over there. It could set up like this whole other thing. So yeah, those are my ideas about Arya and the King of the White Walkers. There's a lot of things. Obviously, you can nitpick with the show as much as you want, but I just thought it would be fun. It's been a year since that show came out, or since that show finished, rather, since that episode came out. And, I'm kind of missing it. Hopefully we get wins soon. Hopefully y'all are doing okay out there and staying safe. And thanks for watching.